I got a message on Instagram from a person who asked me if I could talk about how I motivate myself to draw so regularly, so I decided to talk about this topic in this video. Without further ado, let's dive into today's topic. First, I am going to talk about what I do to stay motivated, but because I know that we all work differently, I will then give you some tips based on some research that I did. Also, what might work for me might not work for you, and vice versa. So please don't be too hard on yourself if some things I mention in this video don't work out for you. That is totally okay. Also, I want to mention that I don't really believe in motivation or inspiration as the source of productivity. I instead think building a routine is the core of being productive, at least for me, and I also have a video on that topic. Motivation is a feeling, and just like inspiration, it comes and goes in waves. It is nothing you can or should rely on all the time, but I also think that motivation is the best and most comfortable starting point to find a routine that works individually for you. The key here is individually. So here are some things I learned over the years. I think one of the main things that keeps me motivated is that I set goals for myself. I noticed that even throughout the days where I don't know what to do, I need to have a goal because otherwise I feel lost. And when I feel lost, I will feel very bad. And also feeling lost won't make me be productive. So sometimes I like to think about what I want to practice the day before drawing, so that it will make it easier for me to also start. Also, I am a huge fan of routines, and once you build your own routine, it will feel more natural to just sit down and just start drawing or whatever you want to get done. But I am not only talking about the smaller goals you set on each day, I am also talking about the bigger goals, your main goals. Think about the reason why you want to draw regularly in the first place. For me, I just love drawing. I love to watch myself draw and fill up a spread and just create something from absolutely nothing. I love being in the zone and the feeling of excitement once you start loving what you're doing and you feel that everything is coming together. So this is the base for the goals that I set myself. Once I learned that you can work as a character artist or a designer, I felt like I found what I wanted to do because I love playing video games, and the thought of being a part of this world and creating the characters for those games made me feel so excited. This immediately turned into one of my biggest goals. But with the whole AI art thing coming up, I started to question my goal a little bit, and I think every single one of you have felt this uncomfortable feeling when all of this started and AI generated images that looked amazing, we can't deny that, started to flood our Pinterest homepages. The thing that surprised me the most back then was that I still kept drawing almost every single day. I felt, and I still fear, the fear inside of me of losing my dream without reaching it in the first place, and that makes me very sad, but that didn't keep me from making art and practicing in my sketchbook. It made me instead realize another goal that I had, and I also mentioned this one many times on my channel already. I wanted to be a good artist just for myself, and I wanted to be able to draw amazingly from imagination one day. I wanted to flip through my sketchbooks and look at them when I am older, because they are like a diary to me now. They show snippets of my life. I can see where I was back then with my art and how much I improved. And they are also somewhat a mirror of the place I was at with my head during that time and my interests I had. I also have this very clear image of me sitting in a coffee store and just drawing these amazing sketches in my sketchbook and being free. So I would say the most important step and the number one step you should take is to set yourself a goal, or like I did, multiple goals. Another thing that helps me to stay motivated is to figure out smaller steps to reach your end goal. For example, let's say if you want to become a comic book artist, then think about what you need to do to get there. For example, you need to learn about layouts, different speech bubbles, different angles, perspective, anatomy, and so much more. But once you figure out what you have to learn, you can decide when to learn those things. You can set yourself one smaller goal at a time and work towards that goal. I also love working with to-do lists because that makes me feel as if I accomplished something, even if it's just crossing off your list that you cleaned your desk or made your bed or made yourself some breakfast. It's just a good feeling, so I would also recommend that to you if to-do lists are something that work for you. But of course, there will also be times where you feel as if your goal is out of reach and everything you do feels pointless. I've been there, it is totally normal. But I started to change my point of view on these times a little bit, which helped me to overcome them quicker. Those moments and those walls you face are important for your growth. You need to face them and overcome those periods in order to improve. Now when I hit walls, or I feel like standing still, I like to think about, I know that sounds stupid, but I like to think about Naruto or One Piece, for example. Naruto or Luffy didn't level up their fighting game by just doing nothing. They had to push through walls for that. And once they pushed through, they improved. Thinking about my blogs like this recently changed the way that I approach them in the first place, and that also motivates me to keep pushing through those hard times. And now when I feel like I'm drawing bad things, I also see the potential in them to help me improve. For example, on this spread, throughout the last couple of days, I noticed what I could work on to make my art look better. I realized that I felt a little bit weak when it comes to drawing faces from imagination. So I decided to sit down and to draw faces from photos and then also from imagination. So the faces on the left page from the spread are based on photos I found on Pinterest, and those on the right page are from imagination. Summed up, I can tell you, learning and improving motivates me a lot to keep on going. I would also recommend you to work with rewards. Every now and then, I also like to reward myself for my work. I love burritos, and often when I feel like I achieved something, I get myself my favorite burrito from my favorite place that sells burritos. Or I get myself something small like a pen, a notebook, or I take a day off just to sit down and do absolutely nothing or take care of myself. Appreciating what you do and the effort you put into your work is also very important for staying motivated. You have to say thank you to yourself every now and then. Another tip I have is to switch things up. I know that I get bored after a while when I do the same thing every single day. I couldn't draw faces every day, all day long for a whole month because I know I would get bored so quickly. So be sure to switch it up every now and then. It is important. You could work on perspective one week and then on anatomy the other. And keep in mind that you can always revisit a topic as much as you like. And as soon as you feel like you are getting bored, then just switch it up. I also stopped telling myself, oh, I don't want to draw today, or I don't want to do that. I know this is a hard thing to do, and that was also a lot of work, but it really helped me. And sometimes I still fall into that pattern of telling myself that I don't want to do something specific, but it really makes such a huge difference for me if I stop doing that. This is also very practical when it comes to other things like cleaning or studying, for example. I remember back when I was still in school, I struggled a lot with studying on those days where I told myself over and over again that I really didn't want to start studying. But on those days where I didn't even allow this thought to come up, I was so productive. I don't even know how to explain you how to do that, but I know that, for example, when I feel the feeling of I don't want to do that, I try to set a cut and try to think about something else and just start doing it. Sometimes inspiration also helps me to stay motivated, but as I mentioned in the beginning, this is not a reliable source of motivation or productivity. But I still have some tips on that. Be sure to surround yourself with things and also people that inspire you. Looking at art books, watching shows, playing video games, or reading books can help you to feel inspiration. At least that's the case for me. Sometimes I also like to learn about things that I don't know too much about, which then may spark an idea. Your workspace might also influence your inspiration or motivation. I personally love clean areas, so I try to clean my desk before working on it because I know that if it's cluttered, my mind feels also very cluttered and I can't think straight or be creative at all. But now that I talked about how I stay motivated, I wanted to share what I researched. One tip that I read was to also think about what's the individual drive behind your motivation. Some people want to earn money, some want attention, some like to work in teams, while others are better off on their own. If you can figure out what your motivation is, you can either figure out if this is really what you want to do, or you could use that knowledge to stay motivated. If you, for example, want to get a job in the industry to make a living off of this, then this goal is a motivation for you. Also, know yourself and know what makes it easier for you to start doing something. If you work well when surrounded by other people or artists, try to join communities. If you can't find a community in your town or city where you live, then try to join communities online. That can also help you with being productive because you feel surrounded by other people that have a similar goal to yours. But if you are like me and you can't focus that way, then at least you know that you have to avoid those settings when you want to get something done that involves being focused. Another thing I read was that there is something called the WOOP method. It is supposed to help you reach your goal with 4 simple steps: wish, outcome, obstacle, and plan. This is a technique developed by Gabriel Oettinger, who is a professor in psychology in Hamburg. The first step is to think and visualize your goal or your wish. Then you have to think about the outcome. How would it feel? What impact would it have on your life? What would your friends, your family, and other people say? Think about the emotions behind it and really try to feel what you would feel in that moment if it would really be the case. Then it is time for step 3, the obstacles. Try to think about what walls you have to face. What keeps you or could keep you from reaching that goal? Is it you? Is it something external? Write those down. And then you reach the last step, plan. Now that you know what the obstacles are, you have to write down a game plan. You can think about it like, if I do this, then that. Write down your milestones and also what you want to do once you face a wall, because that is important because you will eventually face that wall. That way you are ready and set to start. It can also help you to set deadlines. I know this is a hard one, at least for me. Giving yourself deadlines and meeting them is very hard and demotivating for me personally, but it may help you, so I would recommend you to give it a try. Instead of waiting for inspiration or motivation to hit you while laying comfortably in your bed, try to throw yourself in a setting that has something to do with your goal. If your goal is to draw more, then sit down at your desk. Be present. Keep your sketchbook and drawing materials close to you. Our brain connects different settings and moods with different tasks. That way, you are more likely to be hit by motivation than you are when watching TV or scrolling on your phone while sitting on the couch. Friends also told me that spending time reading or doing research about a certain topic that they know they want to get done makes them feel inspired or motivated to start doing that thing themselves. So for example, if you know that you want to start drawing more regularly, then watching videos on that topic could make you feel more motivated to finally start doing it. But please don't forget that at the end of the day, it's all about having fun and enjoying doing art or whatever you want to do in the first place. Now that I'm done with sharing my tips and those that I researched, I also wanted to talk a little bit about the spread that I'm working on in this video. I was feeling so tired when I started to work on the second head from Imagination, and I think you can really tell, but overall I really like the spread. I try to figure out a way how I can work with the contrast that I love so much, and also very sharp and confident lines, because that is something that I really enjoy looking at lately. With this spread, I learned a lot about how I can improve on my sketches. And I also think that, except for the second phase from Imagination, I ended up liking the sketches that I made. For the background, I again decided to go with a pink acrylic paint marker. I love the way acrylic paint markers look in the background like this, but I also feel quite guilty for using them because of the environmental aspect. You can't refill them, as far as I know, and it is a lot of plastic packaging for one pen like this. I always think to myself that I could just mix something with my acrylic paint that I already own. But then again, I love the way these pens feel on the paper. So I am very torn apart between using them and not using them. I'm a person that likes to think about the impact that my actions have on the environment, so I don't know how I will go about that when it comes to my art. Anyways, I am now done with week 2 of The Artist's Way, and I'm still so happy that I started to work with it. It's such a good book, and it already had such a huge impact on me. I had to skip a week of assignments though, because I got sick. So I stretched the assignments from 1 week to 2 weeks, and I still managed to write my morning pages on 13 out of 14 days, even though I was sick, so that is very impressive for me personally, and I'm very proud of myself for doing that. That's also the reason why I couldn't upload a video last week, so I'm sorry for that, but sometimes, you know, your health gets in the way. But this book, and especially the morning pages, changed so much about me. Even my day-to-day mood got so much better because I started off the day with a relaxed and calm feeling on the inside, and I'm so happy about that. I also started to feel inspired not only once, but a couple of times, and that was a feeling that I missed so much during the last couple of months. I am having so much fun working with this book. And as I mentioned multiple times, I can only recommend it to everyone who feels blocked in any shape or form. But that's it for today's video. I hope you took something out of this, as always, and I will see you next week.